Hello, Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome to my channel. In today's lecture, we will study about the morphology of the atherosclerotic plaque. In the last lectures, we have already studied about the pathogenesis, the risk factors, and very important informations which do come in the exams related to atherosclerosis. Let's start today's topic, which is very comprehensive. Morphology of an atherosclerotic plaque. First of all, atherosclerosis occurs in the large elastic arteries and the medium-sized muscular arteries. And these atherosclerotic plaques which forms in the intima of the large elastic arteries, they are clinically very significant. First, when there is a damage to the endothelium or endothelial dysfunction, the macrophages, the T lymphocytes, and the smooth muscle cells, they come into the intima, and macrophages and smooth muscle cells, they eat up lipid, low density lipoprotein, and they become lipid filled macrophages. These lipid filled macrophages are called foam cells, and these are multiple in number, and these foam cells appear as a flat yellow spots called fatty spots. Fatty spots, when these fatty spots, multiple fatty spots, they combine together, they form a longitudinal streaks called fatty streaks, which are about 1 centimeter long or longer. These fatty spots and fatty streaks are clinically insignificant. Why they are clinically insignificant? Because they did not encroach on the vessel lumen. Some of the fatty streaks, but not all of the fatty streaks, can they can evolve, they can change, or they can evolve into an atherosclerotic plaque, which is clinically significant. Because an atherosclerotic plaque is clinically significant because it encroach on the vessel lumen, it obstruct the flow of blood, okay, and can cause multiple complications, for example MI and cerebral infarction. So let's read this. Fatty streaks. Fatty streaks are composed of lipid-filled foamy macrophages, beginning as multiple minute flat yellow spots. They eventually coalesce into elongated streaks 1 centimeter long or longer. These lesions are not sufficiently raised to cause any significant flow disturbances. Although fatty streaks can evolve into plaques, not all are destined to become advanced lesions. Aortas of infants can exhibit fatty streaks, and such lesions are present in virtually all adolescents, even those without known risk factors. The observation that coronary fatty streaks begin to form in adolescents at the same anatomic sites that later tend to develop plaques suggests a temporal evolution of these lesions. So, when some of the fatty streaks change into atherosclerotic plaque, these atherosclerotic plaque obstruct the blood flow. These atherosclerotic plaques are formed due to the deposition of macrophages, lipid-filled macrophages, and smooth muscle cells within the intima, along with the formation of the fibrous cap, and extracellular matrix deposition. These atherosclerotic plaques are usually eccentric. They do not involve whole of the lumen of the vessel. They involve part of the lumen of the vessel. These are eccentric, not concentric lesions. And usually these atherosclerotic plaques are formed in the branch points of the vessel where there is a turbulent blood flow. The key processes in atherosclerosis are intimal thickening and lipid accumulation, which together form plaques. Atheromatous plaques are white yellow and encroach on the lumen of the artery. Superimposed thrombus over ulcerated plaque is red brown. This line is very important. I will talk about this line in a few minutes. Plaques vary in size but can coalesce to form larger masses. Atherosclerotic lesions are patchy, usually involving only a portion of any given arterial wall, and are rarely circumferential. On cross section, the lesions therefore appear eccentric. The focality of atherosclerotic lesions, despite the uniform exposure of the vessel walls to such factors as cigarette smoking, Hypercholesterolemia, hyperlipidemia, diabetes is attributable to vagaries of vascular hemodynamics. Local flow disturbances such as turbulence at branch points make certain portions of the vessel wall more susceptible to plaque formation. As I've already told you, the atherosclerotic plaques are more common at the branch points where there is a turbulent blood flow. Although focal and sparsely distributed at first, with time atherosclerotic lesions can become larger, more numerous, and more broadly distributed. Moreover, in any given vessel, lesions at various stages often coexist. In the descending order of frequency, the most commonly involved vessel in atherosclerosis is the lower abdominal aorta. In the descending order of frequency, the vessels which are involved are the lower abdominal aorta, which is the most commonly involved vessel, then coronary arteries, then popliteal arteries, then internal carotid arteries, and in the last, the vessels of the circle of Willis. In humans, the abdominal aorta is typically involved to a much greater degree than the thoracic aorta. Vessels of the upper extremities are usually spared, as are the mesenteric and renal arteries, except at their ostia. Although most individuals tend to have consistent degree of atherosclerotic burden in the affected vasculature, severity of disease in one arterial distribution does not always predict its severity in another. So that was the very important point. The most commonly involved vessel is the lower abdominal aorta, and and if we talk about in the descending order, then the first is the lower abdominal aorta, then coronary arteries, then popliteal arteries, then internal carotid arteries, and then the vessels of the circle of Willis. You can make a mnemonic I have a mnemonic to share with you, so you can remember this information in your brain. So the mnemonic is aortic crocodiles pop from the car of pop from the car of Willis. Aortic, abdominal aorta, crocodiles, coronary arteries, popliteal arteries, from the car, internal carotid arteries, from the car of Willis, vessels of the circle of Willis. Okay. Atherosclerotic plaques have three principal components. What are the components of an atherosclerotic plaque? Usually, the cells, the extracellular matrix, and lipid take parts in the formation of an atherosclerotic plaque. So the cells are smooth muscle cells which come from the media, usually from the media of the vessels, macrophages which come from the lumen, and the T lymphocytes also comes from the lumen. Then the second is extracellular matrix, which include collagen, elastic fibers, and proteoglycans. These extracellular matrix usually come from the smooth muscle cells, which come into the intima, and these smooth muscle cells proliferate and they produce extracellular matrix. And the third is intracellular and extracellular lipid. Extracellular lipid comes from the intima. These are the low density lipoprotein which comes from the intima because the permeability of the intima is increased in atherosclerosis. And second is the second source is intracellular. Intracellular lipid comes from the degeneration or the death of the cells which release the lipid into the extracellular compartment. These components occur in varying proportions and configurations in different lesions. Typically, there is a superficial fibrous cap composed of a smooth muscle cells and a relatively dense collagen. Beneath and to the side of the cap, the shoulder, is a more cellular area containing macrophages, T cells, and smooth muscle cells. Deep to the fibrous cap is a necrotic core containing lipid, primarily cholesterol and cholesterol esters, debris from the dead cells, foam cells, lipid-laden macrophages and smooth muscle cells, fibrin, variably organized thrombus, and other plasma proteins. So here they are talking about the composition of an atherosclerotic plaque. Atherosclerotic plaque basically has two parts: the central necrotic core, which is composed of lipid होता है, and lipid filled macrophages called foam cells, and the dead cells and the debris. Then over the necrotic core there is a fibrous cap which is composed of smooth muscle cells and extracellular matrix. On the edges, on the edges there's a shoulder of the cap. The shoulder of a cap is a more cellular area which contains macrophages, T cells, and smooth muscle cells. No lipid is present on the shoulder area. So basically, there are three parts of the atherosclerotic plaque. First is the cap, composed of fibrous tissue and smooth muscle cells. Second is the shoulder, which is more cellular area composed of macrophages, T cells, and smooth muscle cells. And the centrally necrotic, and third is the central necrotic area, which is composed of mostly of the macrophages, lipids, foam cells, debris, and all other things. Okay. The periphery of the lesions demonstrate neovascularization, proliferating small blood vessels. So neovascularization, uh, the the vasovascular of the adventitia, they usually form neovascles are formed from the vasovascular present in the adventitia. So basically, intima, median, adventitia, these are three layers of the vessel wall. So adventitia has normally adventitia has a vasovascular, the vessels of the vessels, the vessels which supply blood to the vessel wall. So these new vessels come from the vasa vasorum of the adventitia. Most atheromas contain abundant lipid, but some they are mostly fibrotic. Some plaques are fibrotic. Fibrous plaques are composed almost exclusively of smooth muscle cells and fibrous tissue. So basically, there are two types of atheromatous on the basis of how much fibrous content or how much lipid content is present. Some atheromatous plaque are usually they have a large amount of lipid, and some have a large amount of fibrous tissue. Okay. Plaques generally continue to change and progressively enlarge through the cell death and degeneration, synthesis and degradation of extracellular matrix, and organization of any superimposed thrombus. Moreover, atheromas undergo calcification. Patients with advanced coronary calcification have an increased risk for coronary events. Atherosclerotic plaques are susceptible to the following important pathologic changes. So, atherosclerotic plaque is a dynamic structure. It undergoes continuously. It is undergoing a change, and then acute plaque change include acute changes in an atheromatous plaque include one is rupture, erosion, ulceration, hemorrhage into the plaque, or atheroembolism or aneurysm formation. So let's talk about a rupture. Rupture of an atherosclerotic plaque means there is a disruption of a fibrous cap of a plaque. Rupture means disruption of the fibrous cap of the atheromatous plaque. Rupture, also called fissuring. An ulceration or erosion means when there is a loss of an endothelium of the intima of the vessel wall. The atheromatous plaque is below the intima. So when there is a disruption of the endothelium, it is called erosion or ulceration. When there is a disruption of an fibrous cap of atheromatous plaque, it is called rupture. So rupture, erosion, and ulceration, they exposes the highly thrombogenic surface of the plaque to the blood, and that lead to the formation of a thrombus. So thrombosis occurs due to rupture, ulceration, or erosion. And that thrombus formation abruptly abruptly causes causes the causes the lumen abruptly narrows the lumen and increases the risk of an MI and cerebral infarction. Okay, when occurs in the coronary arteries, it causes MI, and when this atherosclerotic plaque, acute plaque change occurs in the vessels that are going to supply the brain, so it causes cerebral infarction. If the patient survives, the clot may become organized and incorporated into growing plaque. The second acute plaque change include hemorrhage into a plaque. Basically, there are two main causes of intraplaque hemorrhage. One is the rupture of the fibrous cap. When there is a rupture of the fibrous cap, the blood can enter into an atheromatous plaque, and that atheromatous plaque increase in size. Okay. And the second cause of intraplaque hemorrhage is the um, rupture of the neovessels, which were neovascularization, the rupture of the neovessels. Because the neovessels, these are very thin, they have a very thin wall, they are very fragile, and they are very leaky, and they are vulnerable to rupture. So that rupture of a new vessel can lead to the formation of intraplaque hemorrhage. Okay. So I have told you that there are two causes of intraplaque hemorrhage. One is the rupture of the fibrous cap. One is the rupture of the fibrous cap, and second is the rupture of the new vessels. Okay. Rupture of the overlying fibrous cap or the thin-walled vessels in the areas of neovascularization. So first is the rupture of overlying fibrous cap, and second is the rupture of new vessels. Rupture of the fibrous cap can lead to intraplaque hemorrhage, and rupture of the new vessels can also lead to intraplaque hemorrhage, because the new vessels are very thin-walled, very fragile, and they are vulnerable to rupture. Can cause intraplaque hemorrhage, a contained hematoma that may expand the plaque, and due to that intraplaque hemorrhage, that suddenly atheromatous plaque increase in size and encroach on and disturb the flow of blood, or induce plaque rupture. And that intraplaque hemorrhage can also induce the rupture of the plaque and further increase the risk of formation of thrombus. These topics are sort of confusing, but if you are facing any difficulty, then go back, repeat what I'm telling you, what I'm trying to put into your brain. So repeat that information again and again. Now, atheroembolism. When there is a rupture of a plaque, the plaque material, the debris of the plaque, the dead tissues of the plaque, dead cells of the plaque can enter into the bloodstream, and they obstruct the flow of the blood. They obstruct the flow of the blood to the organ. This is called atheroembolism. Plaque rupture can discharge atherosclerotic debris into the bloodstream, producing microemboli. One important point which I want to highlight is you should be able to differentiate between an atheroembolism and thromboembolism. Rupture of a thrombus which disturb the blood flow is called thromboembolism, and rupture of a plaque that releases its necrotic material into the lumen and disturb the blood flow is an atheroembolism. Okay. Now, aneurysm formation. Due to the atherosclerotic plaque formation, the the space between the intima, between the lumen and the media is increased. You can see the previous diagrams, they are showing there. The space between the lumen and the media is increased, and that media, the media of the vessel wall, undergoes ischemia. And due to ischemia of the media of the vessel wall, the weakening of the vessel wall occurs, and the protrusion of the vessel wall occur. The weakening of the vessel wall results in the formation of an aneurysm, and that aneurysm, due to weakening of the vessel wall, that aneurysm may undergo rupture, or we can rupture. Okay. Or we can call yes, we that rupture and release of blood into the surrounding tissue. Atherosclerosis induced pressure or ischemic atrophy of the underlying media with the loss of elastic tissue causes weakness and potential rupture of the vessel wall. Consequences of an atherosclerotic disease. So we will start consequences of atherosclerotic disease in the later in the next lecture. Okay. For Because before ending this lecture, I just want to show some important diagrams, and so you can review your topic with these diagrams. Okay, so basically this is showing a vessel lumen with an atheromatous plaque. Okay, this atheromatous plaque, there are two types of atheromatous plaque. One is the stable plaque, okay, and one is the vulnerable plaque or unstable plaque. This stable plaque is disturbing the blood flow but not so much, but this is vulnerable plaque, and vulnerable plaque may undergo rupture and result in the formation of thrombus, and thrombus formation abruptly disturb the blood flow and lead to myocardial infarction. Another important diagram is, you can see the normal artery. This is the fatty streak formation. I have told you fatty dots combine together to form fatty streak. Or normal artery may directly form a fibrofatty plaque. This fibrofatty plaque may undergo and become a vulnerable plaque. And vulnerable plaque are those plaque. Vulnerable plaque means unstable plaque. These unstable plaque may undergo rupture, may undergo erosion, may undergo intraplaque hemorrhage, or may and form intraplaque hemorrhage and suddenly increase the size of the plaque and disturb the blood flow. Okay, so you can see here these atheromatous plaque may cause stenosis of the stenosis of the vessel lumen, or this atheromatous plaque may undergo rupture and formation of a thrombus. And due to an atheromatous plaque, these the distance between the lumen and the media is increased, and due to which the due to which the aneurysm can form and the rupture, weakening of the vessel wall and rupture of the vessel wall can occur. Okay, so so this diagram is also very important. This is the vessel wall, this is the lumen of the vessel, and this is an atheromatous plaque. This is A is the plaque rupture with superimposed thrombus formation in a patient who died suddenly. Acute coronary thrombus superimposed on atherosclerotic plaque with a focal disruption of the fibrous cap. So you can see this is the plaque rupture, and due to plaque rupture, there is a formation of superimposed thrombus on the atheromatous plaque. This is an atheromatous plaque and superimposed thrombus formation due to rupture of an atheromatous plaque. Okay, and suddenly it it obstruct whole of the blood vessel. More than 90% of the blood vessel is obstruct. In this, there is no a whole of the blood vessel is not obstructed, and you can see the lumen. Due to rupture, there is a formation of thrombus, and thrombus formation leads to MI or cerebral infarction depending on the vessel which is involved, which vessel is involved. So this is all about today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will study about consequences of an atherosclerotic disease. That upcoming lecture will be the last lecture on atherosclerosis, and I will show maximum diagrams so you can review your topic atherosclerosis on the upcoming lecture. Stay tuned. Allah Hafiz.